Rick, welcome to the interview. Pleasure to have you here.
Why, thank you.
For the people back home, you are a teacher and a teacher of teachers. I believe you've spoken to 100,000 students. You have a book called Conscious Classroom Management, which sold over 300,000 copies now. You run workshops in awakened leadership and presenting and leading from the heart. Mm-hmm. Your website's thetenderedge.com.
Correct.
And you've just taken myself and a group of about 25 others through level 1 of being human.
Yeah, the art of being human.
The art of being human. What's that about?
It's authentic relating, and it's structures for allowing people to go deeper in themselves and to connect with others in a more meaningful way. So, as I was thinking about this interview, I thought I want to just kind of make a statement, because I've never said this in this way before. But what I found this weekend, what was really interesting, was the training serves the needs of kind of three levels of motivation or interest. You have people who are coming because they want to have more interesting conversations in their life. And then you have people who are really feeling the pull of vulnerability and opening themselves and opening their hearts. And then you have people who are doing that on a regular basis, the vulnerability and the openness, and the training and the structures can allow them kind of to peel back the veil into a more mystical presence, because it goes very deep. So the same structures, the same games we play, the same focus can be for better conversations, vulnerability in the moment, or this deeper abiding presence, which did arise in the workshop. Yeah.
And we've just sat and edited some of the testimonial videos. That was the first time you've seen them. Is that what you expected? What stood out for you from hearing these people on their way out the door?
I get positive feedback sometimes, but it's always kind of a bit shocking how much people were touched and moved in a 2-day training. And it makes sense, and I can see as they're speaking, like, yeah, they have a different angle, a different trajectory moving forward than they did when they arrived before it started, and that's very cool. I'm very touched. I feel, as I said at the end of the workshop, I feel well used, which is, if I have a goal in facilitation, it's to be empty and to be well used. Yeah.
And the structure of the weekend was a series of games. I don't know if you call them, why you call them games, maybe the game of life?
Exercises, games, structures. There's kind of two pieces. There's the structures and each structure illuminates one or two principles or key threads of presence. So if you look at presence as the center of the wheel, the spokes or the avenues are the games that we play to bring people into an awareness of how to access that presence. So that's one side of it. And the other is a more open-ended kind of group sharing where the real magic often happens, where we just be present and see what's arising, and then with curiosity and slowing down, oftentimes when someone speaks, they skip over like the lily pads. There are these moments of potential dropping into deep presence, deep aliveness and vulnerability. And so in the shares we slow down and people get a chance to kind of feel themselves in a way that they normally don't. So it's both the structures and the present tense hanging together. Yeah.
And I heard you reference the moment within the moment, discovering the moment within the moment. What led you in your life to discover that there were moments within moments and then set out on a huge body of work to facilitate it?
Wow. This is a longer interview. It's going to take a long time to answer that question. I mean, when I was a teenager, I had a series of profound mystical experiences that where I realized there was way more to life than what I thought. And from that point forward, I've been exploring and learning and stabilizing and grounding those experiences into the form of what it means to be a human being in the world, on the ground, connecting with others, in form, finding kindness and weaving that through the conversations and the activities of our lives. So this has been my biggest focus.
Beautiful. Bit of verbal ping pong. I'd like to read a quote to you, and then you tell me what that means for you or what it brings up for you. So, inside of presence is an innate curiosity.
I think I said that.
Yeah, these are your quotes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's really profound. I think it's cool that I said it. When we are allowing ourselves to be and to kind of step underneath the noise that goes on in our heads and the functionality and all of that, we arrive at kind of our center, and inside the center is this, it varies, but there's a sense of hunger for more, a hunger for filling the space with presence. And then there's this innate curiosity. Like I was saying in the workshop, little kids often are very curious, and they don't really edit their curiosity. They've not had that kind of repression training. And when we're present, we become that childlike place where we're just curious about everything. And it could be like this microphone. I could get into just exploring what this is, rather than as an adult, oh, it's a microphone, it amplifies the voice, it records, and moving on. There's so many places of wonder inside of presence as we enter into that.
Yeah, my experience of playing the curiosity gaming context was moving around a room with a whole bunch of people, firstly labeling things and then mislabeling things and then grabbing objects and looking at them as complete new things. And it was this really wild kind of like, what is this? And then when you said to everybody, sit and now look at everybody else with that curiosity, the love that was transferred in the room, the energetics were just, the lid was taken off them.
And that's very cool that you almost equate curiosity and love. The openness yields both, the love, the curiosity, and they come together.
The best I can do right now is consciously blame.
Yeah, I didn't know I'd be quoted on that. That's great. So sometimes when I'm in a situation and I feel a lot of charge in my body and I feel like I don't know how to get to neutral, if I'm with someone, a friend or a partner, and I have permission to what I call consciously blame, I can say, look, this isn't real, and it's going to dissolve as I speak it, but it really helps if I can speak it or write it, and know that you're going to hold space for me, and watch what's underneath it, which is invariably the love and the kindness. And so sometimes the best I can do in a situation, I can't just disarm and drop everything right away, but if I have permission to kind of walk down the staircase from blame into responsibility, that's what I would call consciously blaming. I know it's not true. I know you didn't do this, and it's not your fault, but it's in my head, and I want to be able to narrate it so I don't have to hold on to it.
Stepping over to verbal tools, you said a lot. Being here with you, I'm noticing. Hearing that, I'm noticing. How do you use that?
So this is one of the kind of the foundations of authentic relating, is to relate in the present moment. So as we're sitting here, now I live in Bali and we're in Melbourne and it's cold. I'm cold. So there's like my body's a little shaky. And so to notice that is kind of a doorway into the presence. Oftentimes we skip over sensations thinking, well, what really matters is emotions, and they do, but also physical sensations. So being with you, I notice, is what I'm noticing inside myself physically, what my feelings are, my thoughts, and then perhaps how my feelings and thoughts are being influenced by being with you. So that's the opening, and then when you say hearing this, I notice, so it implies that you're being affected by me. And this is relating. So authentic relating is being authentic and then relating to the other person. Yeah, if that makes sense. So those sentence stems are good kind of ways into the present moment. Yeah.
Another thing I wrote down, that noticing and naming context opens the possibility of changing it. And this is more a statement than a question, because it seems like the capstone to the tool set you were just talking about.
Yeah. And just another way of understanding noticing and naming is being conscious. So that would be consciously blaming, for example. To be able to notice and name, this is what's happening, opens up space for something new. Because if you don't drop to the root, you can't change the stems. Yeah.
And I had quite an amazing time getting access to a karma-free bitch zone, which was AKA the complain game. And I'm backtracking a little here, but really I've had it said to me that by friends that, we never really know what's going on for you, because I always put the positive stuff out there, and I don't sit down ever and be like, oh, this is really irritating me. This is and to have the opportunity to be heard in that was wonderful. I really liked it. And the person opposite me said, wow, I really feel connected to you. You've really shown up.
It was fascinating when we did that, when I said, look, we all have judgments, we all have complaints, and we're not here to sandpaper those out. We're not here to be better than we are. And when there was permission in the space to consciously complain, like you have 2 minutes to complain, then the energy in the room was just so big, because, oh my gosh, I can do that, and it's okay. Now you don't want to it's good to notice the thoughts and feelings, and you don't want to take them to bed with you. You don't want to make a whole civilization out of those expressions, but to be able to name them and notice them opens up space for a deeper truth to come through.
It's not quite a koan, though. It's not how we are with how we are, it's how we are with what we do.
Okay. I said that? I think I probably did. I said a lot of things.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting here being interviewed, and there's a thought in my head that says, I should do a good job, I got to get this right, I have to catch an airplane, so we have to do this efficiently, and all that kind of the doing and the content. And then there's this other part underneath, I think it'd be underneath or behind, where I'm noticing all this, and I have the opportunity to kind of be tender with myself as I'm having those very normal human experiences of wanting to rush or do it right. And so there's a softness that's possible as I'm being videotaped. And so the being videotaped is what we do, and the softness, or the possibility of the softness, is how we are. And in any moment, regardless of what's happening on the outside, I have access to an internal resource to more welcome myself, to take a breath, to slow down, to be present. And that will influence what I do, but initially it's just noticing what I do, noticing how I am inside that, and making, when I can, a choice to welcome myself.
Yeah, I sit here balancing the clock in my periphery, your time, remembering that I didn't put the phone on airplane mode, so if somebody rings, it's going to interrupt the video production. Figuring out what I want to ask you, and then just slowly moving through the process, because
exactly.
Two things that really I loved. Whatever is happening, the good news is we have ourselves.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Because we have ourselves. And there's no better place than where I am.
There's no better place than where I am, yeah. Well, I was talking about, when you were forming groups one time, and, okay, find the person you want to be with, and if they're taken, then find someone else. But I guarantee you it's the perfect person that you're going to partner with, because you get to be with you. And that's really what it's about. And there's no place like home. If I could quote a movie I've seen a few hundred times.
Yeah. We don't... Well, there's always time, but right now we're not going to go into the word purple, unless you want to wrap it up quickly.
You like that one?
I did.
Sure. I'll just share. It's a personal story. It came in the conflict transformation part of the weekend. And sometimes there's so much charge in a person energetically that they don't know how to ground. So the story is, I was with my, this is years ago, I was with my girlfriend, and we're living together, and sometimes we'd have these big fights. Back and forth, and in the middle of the fight, in the middle of a sentence, she would turn and walk out of the house. And I would feel like I was kicked in the stomach. It was like, oh, how could you do that? And she'd go out on the hills, walking in the woods for a couple hours and come back. And she'd come back, and I'd say, how could you leave? I felt so abandoned. And she said, well, you know I'm going to come back. I said, my mind knows it, but my energetic body, the young boy, and I don't know that. I'm emotionally freaking out. And then she said, well, the reason I'm leaving is because I feel so much charge. If I continue the argument, I'm going to say things that are going to just make it worse. Hello. I love it. And so I got that. And then I realized, well, it's too many words for her to say all that in the heat of the moment. To her to say, I'm going to leave now because I love you, I'm going to take a walk, and I'll come back, and all that was just too hard. There's too much charge. So we came up with the word purple, which was a signal. If she said purple, all that was what was going on. So the next time we had a fight, back and forth, and she says purple. And I'm like, have a good walk. It always touches me. It was like, because when she left for 2 hours, we were together. Like, I knew why she was leaving. My body could relax. She was going to, because she was honoring the connection rather than leaving me. And so that simple tool really, it still touches me today, like, because there's a way to remember, like, to step out of the trauma of being abandoned, and it's the opposite. It's like, oh, I'm being supported. There's a tail in the video.
So, the cat wants to be on the table.
Yeah.
And I mean, I wrote it down because I know one of the biggest transitions in my life ever was a situation where I walked out on a situation I couldn't handle, and I'm fairly confident if I'd have said the word purple, there would have been a lot more space for us to resolve a conflict that still probably sits in the hearts of both of us today.
Sure, and of course you choose your own word. It's not a universal, people, it's not a universal word, okay? So don't just say purple without setting a context, because they're not going to know what you're talking about.
All right, wrapping this up so you can get out of here and get to somewhere warm, Bali. What's one thing in the world you want people to know about authentic relating?
There's a lot. The practices of authentic relating, the first one is welcome everything. Not so easy to do, but it's when we welcome everything, we automatically let go of our agenda. We drop into a place of openness and graciousness. And then the second one is we drop our assumptions. There's that innate curiosity and that aliveness. So authentic relating is a series of structures and focus to bring more aliveness, more connection, more openness, to the extent that people want. So there's no force. We're not pushing people to be different. We're actually inviting people to be themselves. And in that invitation is where the real magic happens.
And if there's one thing you wanted people to know about being at the Tender Edge, your own website, thetenderedge.com.
thetenderedge.com. Thank you. Well, you mentioned my background. I have two websites. The other one is consciousteaching.com. That's for school teachers and administrators. But this newer stuff is a more kind of, in my world, edgy and alive and vulnerable focus. And on the website, I give my philosophy of life in 2 sentences. Love is unconditional, and life gives us conditions so we can love them. And what that means a lot, but one thing it means is that every experience we have, good, bad, positive, negative, right, left, it doesn't matter. Every experience is a doorway into love, is a doorway into ourselves. And we don't have to change the experience to find our soft center, because every experience we can welcome, we can breathe, we can be tender with ourselves. So that's one piece. And the other side of the tender edge is that we expand our comfort zone by entering into discomfort. But we do it in small doses, because if we go too far too fast, we can traumatize and slingshot back into contraction. So it's a way of moving and growing where we don't have to step back again and recover. Recover means to cover again. We don't have to do that if we go at a pace. I call this going at the speed of love. If we can move at the speed of love and bring that tenderness in, then we can actually move quite quickly into welcoming ourselves and others. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
Thank you so much for being on the interview with Philip Bateman. And thank you very much for watching. I'm really committed to bringing you more wonderful insights from leaders in business, politics, and community around the world. So if you can give me a little bit of support by sharing, commenting, liking, and getting this content out into the world, does mean a lot to me, and means we can speak to and hear from more amazing people like Rick here.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure, really.